Hello, everyone, and welcome once more to Above the Curve. I'm Glenn Jones, joined by Brad Nelson.
Hello.
And Todd Anderson.
What's up?
If you guys are seeing this, then the StarCityGames.com Open Series in Atlanta featuring the Invitational is already getting ready to go underway on Friday, as that's when this episode airs. You are also seeing this episode on the select side of our website. There's a change of pace for all of us.
Dude, that's my bread and butter.
All right, a change of pace for some of us.
Yeah.
So this is an exciting shift, obviously. We're going to highlight the Invitational, but first, we're going to go ahead and review the previous weekend's tournaments, which took place in Orlando, Florida. Orlando was the first Open Series of the year to feature our experimental change to tournament structure. We had 2 standard opens.
Double standard.
Double standard, no legacy. The first day of the standard had quite the storybook ending, with Brandon Ross playing Reanimator, the format boogeyman, and defeating reigning Standard Open champion John Cuvalier in the finals.
Is that how you say his name? I thought it was like Cuvier or something, French sounding.
I believe in it.
Isn't he your friend?
He is my friend. I just call him Cuvie.
Well,
that's the easy way out.
Here we're professional. We're professional.
Yeah, it shocked me though that Cuvie made it to the finals of this tournament. I didn't think John was that well positioned, and eventually he just proved me wrong. Like, if you have the right tools and you can get the right draws, you can get there. And he was just dismantling junk all over the place until the finals, where I finally saw what should happen and what I'm used to. Just junk running all over John no matter what he has.
Yeah, Cuvie did go 3-1 against Reanimator on the day, but the 1 was right where it counted in the finals. So, the second Standard Open was Aaron LeBlanc's to take. No junk Reanimator, nice change of pace.
Yes.
And he took it down with Nia Blitz in a record finish. I don't think we've ever had a match go that fast, much less a finals.
He had 3 turns total in each game. He was going to kill his opponent on turn 4 when his opponent scooped.
Very, very impressive.
Yeah.
Todd, what do you think about Nia Blitz? Obviously, it was a really aggressive top 8. You know, there was mono red, red, green. Just plenty of people trying to attack people to death.
Yeah. The second top 8 actually only featured 1 copy of Junk Reanimator, which I thought was interesting because the first day there were 3. It was a smaller tournament, and I'm not sure if that affected like the numbers at all. But maybe the people decided that they wanted to play more aggressive decks or something. I don't know. But I really thought that the Nia Blitz deck was well positioned, and I mean, honestly, the deck is very good. It has nut draws that are very, very nigh unbeatable. It's like very hard for a lot of decks to come back from multiple burning trees with a champion of the pair start, let alone
Which
if they have.
he did every single time on camera.
Dude, if you're gonna win, if you're gonna win the tournament, you have to have multiple burning trees. You know, like being on the play, I think was a huge factor too.
Yeah.
I think he was on the play most of the top 8.
He was
not
the
all.
1 seed.
Yep.
Number 1 seed, yeah. So, I mean, obviously running hot all day. Every time I play the deck, you know, I start off with the Sun Petal Grove on turn 1 after I mulligan 5. So, when the deck runs good, it runs very good, as it's demonstrated over the past couple weeks. Deck's solid.
Yep.
Well, we've discussed both Reanimator and Blitz over the past few weeks on the show already. So we're going to go ahead and move into the breakdown and address the second place list from Sunday, which was Edwin Beckwith's Wolf Run Bant. Okay, so Edwin did get second place in the Sunday Standard Open, playing Wolf Run Bant, an archetype we hadn't really seen do too much since Indianapolis, I think. I believe Michael Burnett played it there, and he had some interesting changes and innovations. Kudos to Edwin, very young player, very strong finish.
Yeah.
I know, Brad, you
Is he the next
list.
Justin Uppel, do you think?
The next Justin Uppel.
I like how it
Justin
just
Uppel's
changes
still
every
here,
year.
man.
Yeah.
I know, Brad, you said that you found his list particularly interesting as a new take on the archetype, so why don't you run us through what you liked?
All right, so one of the things I really did like is he integrated actual red spells going along with the Wolf Run mana in Assemble the Legions. Assemble the Legions is another very powerful card for the other control matchups that you might have. Very good against Esper. And Bant already is well positioned in those matchups since it snowballs better with its Sphinx's revs, getting them online faster, and being able to play all these permanents, forcing your opponent to counter everything and not get that chance to play that Sphinx's rev. So when you put them back against the wall, they're going to Sphinx, then you're going to get to have a bigger Sphinx after that. But the one thing I disliked about his list is he had so many anti-control cards in his sideboard, which was, for me, I think it was a mistake because he just got ran over by Blitz in the finals. Probably played some more mid-range matchups than the hyper-aggressive ones, and since Blitz is a good answer to junk, I think that's going to become more popular again, forcing you to play higher impact spells out of the sideboard like Blind Obedience, Rock's Faith Mender, things like that.
Sure, sure. Day one of the Orlando Standard Open definitely seemed to be saturated with a lot of those mid-range strategies.
Yeah.
We saw that reflected in the top 8 with all the junk and the
all
John.
the primordials. Every primordial but the blue one was cast on day one.
True enough.
I saw a guy blink white primordial, and I had the shivers a little bit. That was pretty good.
The Sunday Standard Open appeared to be just a reversal, that we had all those aggressive decks, and it's hard to know if those players were just there the first day and didn't do as well. I think that the Standard Open champ said from Sunday said he just went 0-2 drop on Saturday.
Yeah.
So shows you on any given day.
Yeah.
So Todd, what do you think about that format shift? What do you find interesting, especially about the aggressive deck succeeding in the mid-range infused metagame?
Well, I'm not really sure if everyone just decided to go home who was playing Junk Reanimator, or if maybe people just sort of realized that the aggro decks were better against the Junk Reanimator decks. But I mean, we haven't really seen a lot of changes in the format over the last couple of weeks. Like we've had the hyper aggressive decks, we've had the red green aggros, we've had the Naya blitzes, and they've all been pretty well positioned against the Junk Reanimator decks, but the Junk Reanimator decks just keep winning. And I think that's because they're consistent, and their draws are always usually like pretty similar, like they mulch, they grizzly salvage. They either have the Centaur healer into Thragtusk, or they don't and they die. But the aggro decks stumble, and when they stumble, they just die. They don't have a way to consistently make sure that they have their curve of 1, 2, 3, 4. But when they do, they're very powerful. And we just saw that maybe Sunday they just ran a little bit hotter than they were running on Saturday. Maybe there were less control players, less people playing red, white, blue to keep them down. I mean, there could have been a multitude of factors, but I think that maybe the guys who are doing well just ran a little better.
Well, one of the things that I liked about the aggressive decks that were in the main in the top 8, as opposed to most of the aggressive decks I see, is they have answers to Angel's Serenity. That's one of the big things that the junk decks have against these aggressive decks right now, is they just play an Angel's Serenity, and these aggressive decks have no comeback. The more mid-range decks have answers, so the junk decks just get to lean on it a little bit more. As we've seen, we saw a lot of Markham Mutinies and active aggressions, or not active aggression, but Trader's Instinct?
Trader's Blood.
Trader's Blood.
Or Trader's Instinct too, I think.
Yeah.
They're both. Yeah.
But these cards can come down and force 5 damage or 6 damage through after an Angel of Serenity, hopefully just locking the game up. And I think that's one of the big things that I saw as innovative in this top 8 to help fight these junk decks.
Sure. I think that mid-range shift on day one certainly owed to Edwin's deck choices that we were discussing before, and also to his success on day 2. It's not like those decks went away. I definitely saw a lot of Jund decks. I even know several players switching from aggressive decks to Jund decks after seeing day 1 and just not being happy with it. Obviously, they wound up feeling kind of silly once you saw that top 8. And Edwin, though he did get to the finals, he was eventually unhorsed by his decision to not run enough sideboard hate for a very terrifying match.
Not enough, not any at all.
yeah. He and his opponent both, were looking at the deck list in the finals, and Aaron was just like, so I noticed that you're not bringing in any cards.
Yeah.
Very, very awkward.
Yeah, I even said in the booth, I was like, I'm kind of curious if he wants to take his assemble out and board in a Geist to block a 2/2.
Yeah.
This is a potential thing he might want to do.
So if you were, rebuilding Edwin's deck for the next standard, where might you look?
All right, well, like I said earlier, I think Rock's Faithmender and Blind Obedience are 2 very good choices. The 2-drop enchantments are very good in Bant right now. Not only is Groundsill, Rest in Peace, and Groundsill, Rest in Peace, and Blind Obedience, all very good answers against specific matchups, and they just come down very early and help take care of some matchups in the early game.
Todd, what about you?
I think that obviously, what Brad's saying is you want to have more sideboard cards against matchups that are more difficult. If you play too many things like Geist of St. Traft when you're already trying to snowball, you want more things that are top end, like Symbol of the Legions. Maybe he could even splash for something like Rolling Timblor. That was the card that I thought, it's maybe a little hard to cast, but if you play a few more red sources, maybe delve a little deeper into the red, it might not be that hard. And it's 3-mana Wrath versus a deck with Talia versus having to just cast Supreme Verdict or whatever. So.
Yeah, Rolling Timblor and Electrickery were 2 cards that I saw seeing a fair bit of success on Sunday.
That
sure.
sounds spicy.
I think Electrickery is a little bit better positioned than a card like Rolling Timblor because of all the 3/3s. I want my card to interact as quickly as possible or deal with that one thing. And plus, Electrickery in a deck that has enough turn 1 red sources can kill Champion on turn 1, as well as multiple cards like Thalia and Mayors after a while. So. And
Junk Reanimator often starts on Pilgrim Arbor Elf. It's not very strange, so just being able to zap one of those is totally fine.
Yeah, well, don't do that. Electrickery is bad because it also kills my boy Somber World Sage. So.
Oh, okay. Well, we wouldn't want that to happen. With the Invitational ongoing, we've decided to also do a little special on the actual formats of that tournament. Obviously going to be a pretty big deal, so let's go ahead and get started with that. One of the formats at the Invitational is obviously Legacy, which we didn't really get a taste of this weekend thanks to the Orlando Double Standard Open.
I'm always sad when I don't get to watch Legacy on the weekends.
Surprisingly enough, I did play Legacy in my break during the day 2 Standard Open.
So
I got my Legacy.
Why didn't we stream that? That would have been sweet.
Well, we wouldn't have wanted to see all the losses. You know.
I went 2-0.
Ooh, big time.
Yeah. Won that $1.50 off
got those two
mans. Yeah.
Well, as a player who's had to kind of crack his way into Legacy, not a long time aficionado as it were, a lot of players at these invitationals are going to be players who won an IQ, frequently play standard F&M, maybe PTQs, but not really experienced with Legacy.
I mean, unless they top 8'd.
Sure. Yeah. Unless they top 8, like a Legacy Open or play those.
He said most, Brad.
Yeah, there's definitely a wide range of players. So if you're a player who's approaching Legacy as, someone very new to the format, where would you suggest that they actually start looking?
Well, it's interesting because I just had this dilemma myself. I've been playing Legacy for about a year now since I moved to Roanoke, and I always wanted to be the powerful decks. Like I want to put Gristlebrand into play, and I want to stifle and wasteland my opponent out. And what I've been struggling with is you have to make your game plan from turn 1. You're not letting the game come to you at all. You're just forcing everything. So I kept literally forcing everything to get your spells through. But I just kept struggling with having to map out the 5 turns of proactivity, which I love doing in Standard. So I've actually been changing, and I think I'm going to end up playing a reactive deck and let the game come to me so I can just always react to what my opponent's doing. Yes, you need to map things out a little bit as well, but you don't just forget your Reanimator deck and die to a Grapdigger's Cage on turn 1. But yeah, so I think for a lot of players...
Did that happen to you?
That happened to me many times, actually.
That's kind of embarrassing.
Yeah. When you're a new player jumping into Legacy, I think one of the most important things to do is to figure out what your strengths are in Magic. Like, figure out yourself at the core, like what you want to do. Because I think being reactive in the format is a good choice to be if you're good at Magic, but you just don't know the format that well. And if you've never touched it and you're scared, there's always Lava Spike.
There is always Lava Spike, that's true. Yeah.
Ollie did very well with it at the Invitational. He top 8'd, which I think was Atlanta. I think that was the last one. Yeah, that last Atlanta.
Yeah. Where I may know a little bit about that top 8.
Yeah, you might just a little bit.
May have played against Ollie.
Yeah.
May have played against a few other guys.
But yeah, I think it's a great choice that'll get you that 6 or like 5 wins that you need if you're going to go 8-0 in Standard, and you know it very well.
Sure. Todd, how about you? I know you've written extensively on Legacy. You really love the format.
Yeah, so I've actually only been playing the format for about 2 years. Okay. I started on the Legacy circuit as well, or on the Cersei circuit as well, playing Legacy. My first deck was a deck that I played in my local shop. It was Goblins, and I was playing Ether Vial, and I had all these sweet cards. I'd played Goblins in Extended before, so I was very familiar with the archetype. And then in that tournament, I lost to like 3 combo decks that were all killing me, and I had no interaction. And I just felt very, very far behind in everything. I mean, obviously, that was like a different format. I had Mystical Tutor, and like the combo decks were a little more powerful. But that next week, I wrote an article about how I thought that you should almost always be playing Force of Will in Legacy, either as a way to protect your combo or as a way to protect yourself from an opposing combo. And I was so adamant about wanting to play Force of Will and Brainstorm and all these blue cards, I got a little bit of I guess whiplash from the Legacy community about, not every deck needs it. Like, there are other disruptive spells you can play. Sure, you need to interact, but it was a topic that I felt that it was people were very passionate about, and it was something that was the first time I felt like the community was really, expressing exactly what they thought. There's always like MTG The Source, and they always have their forums, and the people on there are all like Legacy aficionados. They've been playing it forever. It's their format. These people, they're very passionate about something, and I admire it. And it's only, their criticisms of me have only made me grow as a Legacy player. And, honestly, I love the challenge of trying to prove these kind of people wrong, because, if I'm able to challenge their normal ideas of things and eventually able to change their mind about something, I definitely count that as a win in my book.
Okay. MTG The Source is a large Legacy community, and if you want to check them out online, they've got a wealth of information and some very well organized forums.
Yeah.
Many
of which are dedicated to hating me. No.
One of the things that I have found very interesting about Legacy is that community aspect. It's a format that really grows the more players you have locally interested in it. You know, it's hard to remain on top of Legacy just with the internet, unless you're, you know, really extensively using Moto, and even then you have to run pretty good just to get the dailies to fire. Yeah. As we all know. So, what steps might you guys take to try, if you don't have access to a Legacy community, to, you know, stay abreast of the format, or if, you know, you want to build one maybe?
Well, I mean, I think for building a Legacy community is difficult. I think using proxies and just getting people interested is a great way if no one has the cards right away, and then you can get those cards for when you go to the tournament, so you can try things. You don't want to buy a deck, play it, and then know it's bad, because trust me, I have people that have Legacy cards. I have a friend online that's amazing that lets me use everything, but I'll be like, I think this deck is great, and then the next day I hand it back and I'm like, give me this deck is terrible, it was just bad, I can't win with it. And that's the format. There's so many decks, and there's so many possibilities, and there's so many different metagames you might run into that you have to just get good with a deck that you like, and you have to find that, and I think that takes a long time to figure out. So building the community is just playing games, whatever they are.
Why would I want to use proxies when I can just play cockatrice, Brad? I don't understand.
If only.
Yeah.
One other thing I want to talk about, you discussed the Legacy metagame. It's usually not very predictable, it varies really wildly with region, but at Invitationals it started to really kind of coalesce over the last few. The most recent one in LA, we had many players opting to come with Force of Will like in the sideboard of their decks because they just expected no combo decks from their fellow grinders. You know, they figured other people would be on decks like Bug and Stoneblade. They just wanted to have an edge in those attrition matchups. So what kind of a metagame are you expecting for Atlanta?
I definitely think that is still going to be the case. I think all the best players are doing that, just running less forces in the main, running them in the sideboard for the combo matchups, trying to prey on the better players when they have to like struggle to win those games, and hoping to just lose game 1 against all the combo players and try to get there in games 2 and 3. I personally want to play forces in my main deck because they are bad in some matches, but they still do things, and they're great when you definitely need them. And plus, I'm not a player that can just give up a game in a matchup. So I want them, and I like casting them, and it's just a failsafe. I just hate losing on turn 1 in game 1. So I want my Force of Wills.
Todd, as a champion of Force of Will that we just recently discussed, how do you feel about it now? Still the same on Brad's page?
Well, honestly, I can really understand why people would want to cut it for a tournament like the Invitational. It is safe to assume in a lot of scenarios that your average player, like grinder on the circuit, who plays all the time, who plays both Standard and Legacy, is not going to be playing a combo deck that just like wins on turn, 1 or 2. I did something kind of similar in the Invitational a couple months ago where I didn't play any Graveyard Hate in my sideboard because I didn't assume that there'd be any Reanimator or any Dredge at the Invitational, but there ended up being like a Dredge deck and a Reanimator deck in the top 8, but I didn't face against either of them in the tournament or in the top 8. So honestly, like, it's hard to figure out exactly what you're going to be playing against, but if you don't think there's going to be a lot of combo, Forceful on the sideboard just makes a lot of sense.
Sure. All right, well, that's half the Invitational.
Yes.
We're going to go ahead and take a look at the other half now with Standard. Let's talk, I guess, just about the state of Standard. We've obviously already addressed it a ton, but one of the things I'm curious about, at these Invitationals, you see a lot of players looking to beat them rather than join them, and right now we have a real clear target in Junk Reanimator. But most of the time, the top players are trying to make their blue, white, red control decks, their Esper decks, like their Bant decks. That's the decks that these awesome players are showing up with most of the time, outfitted to beat whatever they're trying to hit. Junk Reanimator's just been surviving all of the heavy fire.
I think this is probably going to be the first Invitational I've seen where Hallowed Fountain isn't the best Magic card in the format. You've had that for the last...
Seachrome Coast. That was... Seachrome Coast was way better.
They're the same card in my book. I think for the last year and a half, all the Invitationals, the best decks were either Stoneblade, Geist, Delver, Sphinx's Rev. These cards have just been annihilating, so the best deck was the deck everyone wanted to play. Right now it's not. Junk is definitely just proven itself as the best deck in the format. Since no one really knows how to beat it, I think when they do, it's because it's just an onslaught of hate, but a lot of these Hallowed Fountain decks don't have that. So I think we're going to see a lot of the best players running just a variety of decks. I could see someone like Ben Freeman attacking with Champion of the Parish. I could just see everyone just moving around, just playing a deck.
We're talking about like somebody like Wesco, like casting a black spell. Like, it's just not going to happen.
I would say that I think these players are going to be playing a wide variety of decks, some aggressive, some not, because the format is in flux and no one really understands it right now.
Yeah.
Sure. Todd, do you expect anyone to be joining up with Junk Reanimator? You know, throwing in the towel?
Yeah, I think that, you know, I'm kind of on the fence at the moment too. I have been talking with Brian Brown Doan about maybe playing Junk Reanimator. He's got a pretty sweet list. But I think that my favorite way to attack these junk decks is by having, you know, virtually no creatures in your deck. Planeswalkers are pretty huge right now. You know, if you have a lot of ways to protect them, they can end the game by themselves. I think Gideon, Champion of Justice, could actually end up being something very relevant as long as you have a way to protect them. Because being able to, like, exile all permanents, like, if you are playing a deck with, like, Gideon and Thragtusk, you're going to end up with a 3/3 afterwards because of the Beast trigger. But, you know, like, cards like Tamio and her ultimate, Jace, Memory Adept and his ultimate, all these cards are just very good against junk if you have ways to protect them. And my favorite way to protect them at the moment is Fog, and which may sound a little weird. If you read my article this week, you'll know that Fog is a potential contender, and I think that it just beats the living crap out of this Junk Reanimator deck because their only way to attack you is by attacking. And if you play like a Jace Memory Adept on like turn 5, after Farseeking with like Fog backup, it's just incredibly difficult to lose because they have basically 4 turns to kill it or they're going to lose. And if you have Fog, Clinging Mist, as well as Snapcaster Mage.
I just have to stop you for a second. Like you say I go too deep when I build decks, and you're talking about Fog and Clinging Mist.
Dude, I lose to Fog an average of once every 2 years in a PTQ top 4. It just always happens. I'm playing like the best aggro deck in the format, and my opponent goes like turn 2 Howling Mine or some variant, and I just die. The deck has a lot of points where it's very good. Like, obviously it has flaws. Skullcrack is a huge problem, but I think cards like Dispel can really fix that. But if Fog is not good right now, I don't know how to beat Junk Reanimator, because I have played against Junk like maybe 10 times now on Moto, and I've lost to it once because I didn't draw, you know, my 4th land.
Sure.
But like, the deck's very good against Junk Reanimator. It has a little bit of trouble against some other things, but if all you want to do is beat Junk Reanimator, this is the deck.
Well, one of the other decks that has been doing well are all these aggressive decks. I shouldn't say one. There's very many.
Yeah.
Including the Blitz deck that we saw win in Orlando. So, you know, Brad already predicted we'll see some people moving out of their wheelhouse. Yeah. Do you think those hyper-aggressive decks are going to be a larger portion of the pie at the Invitational, Todd?
I mean, they very well could be. I wouldn't discount them, definitely. It's just the people who I expect to do well at an Invitational are the same people who I expect to be playing the control decks. The people who always want to have the power to win or lose in their own hands. And this generally means playing cards like Sphinx Revelation and not really playing cards like Diregraph Ghoul. You know, like the red-green decks and the Naya Blitz decks, like, they're all going to come packing a ton of heat. And it's really up to, like, the real grinders or the people who you expect to do well to really fight off these decks. And if they're not able to, then, you know, like, the nut draws from these aggro decks are sometimes just too hard to overcome.
Well, and it's not just that the nut draws are too hard to overcome. I think this is actually going to be the first tournament that we see Junk do terribly. And the reason for that is, yes, everyone is bringing hate. The aggressive decks have a good matchup. But with it, when a deck like Junk that has a lot of disruption against it also has like its target on its head, including itself, it cannibalizes itself in running too many mirror match technology spells, cutting Thragtusk for acidic slimes, playing Garruk in the main, trying to do all these different things. Deathrite Shamans, like running Deathrite over more mana acceleration. We're seeing this trend happen, and yes, sometimes you can just get there, because when you just go mulch into Unburied Right's Angel Serenity, you're like, I can play all these anti-cards because I just win. But with a tournament like this, there's a lot of smart players that are going to be running hate, and there's a lot of smart players that are going to be playing Junk with way too much technology against itself. And so I definitely think this tournament, we're going to see it probably top 8 because there are 8 rounds of Legacy as well, but I would not put it at many, and I do not think it will be dominating at this tournament.
It seems to have given Todd a fit. Well, we're going to go ahead and move on. We asked for mailbag, and you have delivered. We had way too many to even possibly cover in one episode. Way too many to cover in like 3. But we're going to go ahead
You just have to have me ask, Glenn.
Yeah.
I just have to
throwing down that card. That's a bold card to play. You're making a lot of aggressive moves here.
I throw a lot of cards down, sir.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to the mailbag. Moving on, Mike Dunleavy. He had a couple of questions. Brad, I know this one's right in your wheelhouse. How do you think Rurik Thar is going to do in Standard?
Oh, yeah. Gruul smash. Gruul care, no spell. No, I think the card is awesome. When I saw it, I was just like, oh, it's another good card for Somberworld Sage.
Sure.
And it doesn't get punished. Like, most cards are just big and dumb and scary, but they don't do anything.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything when it comes into play, but if they do something, they just die.
Yeah, it's a 6/6 with Vigilance. Sure, it attacks every turn because we're Gruul and we attack, and we want to make sure people that are scared of attacking just send it in. You have cards like Gorklan Rampager that are spells that don't trigger it. I think the card is amazing on the top end of a curve.
I forgot about Gorklan Rampager with that guy.
Yeah, no, the card is unbelievable. It's going to see play. Yes, we're going to have to wait for Angel of Serenity to not be the trump for it, but like, I don't know if I'm going to be Angel or Somberworld Saging into this guy. I mean, there's a good chance I'm going to be Somberworld Saging into this guy. Let's be realistic. But like, the card is awesome, and you think it's like, you're like, oh, it's just a big dummy, and then think of how embarrassing it is to Azurius Charm this guy.
Sure.
Let alone just kill it. Wrath it, sure, that's fine. Take 6, you're probably dead. I love it. It's so awesome.
Our next questioner, Tim McGowan. Brad, why don't you throw this one? He wanted to know how you handle playing in high-pressure situations. He struggled a bit with stress getting to him, maybe missing a trigger or something. So what's your secret?
All right, so I actually do have a secret for this. And it's difficult. Like, we're human beings. We have emotions. We can't control them. That's what they are. We do enjoy some of them, like happiness. But when we get, stress and when you're dealing with these situations you've never been in, like playing for a win and in for day 2, or playing to top 8 a Grand Prix, or drafting in that top 8 with Ben Stark to your right, these things happen. And the way that I calm myself down before each match when I'm emotional is to, instead of thinking about what's happening in my life, actually focus on the emotion itself. Like, if I am feeling nervous, I just think about why I'm nervous, not in the context of the tournament, but like, why am I allowing myself to be this nervous? Like, I'm just thinking about nerves and like, how do I calm myself down? Like, should I start breathing? Should I refocus? Things like that. If I'm angry, just think about being angry and what that will accomplish for you. These emotions are bad. They're needed sometimes to just let you calm down, but you have to just focus on the emotion itself and just calm yourself down at that moment. Don't be angry. There's no point in being angry. It's going to make you play worse. It's going to make you feel emotional and maybe like anger one of your friends. You might say something you don't want to say. You might do something you don't want to do. So you just think about these things and try to get yourself back to an even kill to focus for the next match.
Jack Nicholson had a pretty good viewpoint on anger management. In the movie Anger Management.
Like, don't star in shows like that.
No, that movie was sweet. It had Adam Sandler in too. They were like,
we're not friends anymore.
All right.
Well, a case in anger management right there.
Yeah.
We have another question. I'm going to go ahead and merge these two a little bit. Andrew Huffaker, he first off wanted to know about overcoming the difference between local events and Grand Prix, especially, he feels like he doesn't get to practice, high-level competitive Magic in his local events. So actually, why don't we just start with that one? And Brad, how do you overcome that issue?
Well, I mean, I dealt with that when I was living in North Dakota. There wasn't much competition for me. I was winning all the tournaments in my local area, and I just looked for Magic Online. I think that's a great, when your area isn't that good. Now, if you can't afford Magic Online, I think the best thing is to take and build a team of people. If you can get some people to just show up at your local store on a Tuesday night and play sideboarded games of just a random matchup, and you just learn and break it down from there, you can find the holes. Now, just playing FNM every week, you're not going to get that testing. You're going to find that your blitz opponent didn't really attack correctly, and then you think the matchup's good. And then you play against someone that's good with blitz at an open or a GP, and he just runs you over. And so to get the correct 75s to play, you need to play with the 75 and not just against random opponents in FNM. That testing you have to throw out the window. That's where you should just be playing Thragtusk and Omniscience and stuff like that. Just have some fun and don't take that for real testing results. But if you can afford a deck on Moto, I think that is the best way to get good in an area without competitive players.
All right. Another question in the same vein. We had to do a little research on how to pronounce this person's name. I hope I get it close at least.
Well,
from
the build
Russia.
Up now you have to just nail it.
Nuya Soshka, I believe. I think so.
I'm not clapping. It's just a name.
I'm throwing in the dark there. And she wanted to know, how do you go about gauging your own competitive level and improving it for determining when you should be playing in high-level events, and also your confidence? How do you stay positive about your own performance? So Todd, what do you think?
All right, so if you're at a position where you're trying to figure out exactly where you should be playing in a tournament, I think that the best way to get over that is to just do what you're normally comfortable with and then go one step further. If you play FNM all the time, and you've never really been to a PTQ or you haven't really done well at them, then just keep playing in them. You make yourself better by playing against people who are better, and if you go to higher and higher level tournaments as you progress in your game, you're going to see that you're starting to improve. Your records become better. You might start off 0-2, 0-3 at the first couple of PTQs you go to, but then you're going to start off going 2-2, and then you're going to start off going 2-0, and that's going to lead to more success down the line. I think that the biggest way to improve your game as a Magic player is to just try to put yourself in a position where you're going to be playing Magic against people who are always better than you.
For confidence level, I just want to chime in. I think there's two different confidence levels that are bad. I think just being overly confident can really hinder someone's game. Just always thinking you're the best, and then you start getting emotional by results orientated, and you're thinking, well, I got unlucky when I won and I played tight, or I got unlucky when I lost and I played super tight when I won, and that's just not the case all the time. Or being too not having any confidence at all. Because the funny thing is, when I feel a little bit low on my confidence level, I've done my best in my tournaments because I'm just focusing and concentrating on all of my decisions and really not just second guessing myself, but making sure I go over those decisions twice. And I mean, 2010, you would think that I was overly confident, but I really was. It just wasn't me. Okay. I was just brain dead during it and just played Magic. But when I was overconfident in 2011, I just did terrible.
Last but not least, a lot of people wanted to know. We had Team Nut Draw, apparently, from Alaska, Luke McGrath, and Joe Timpson, who sent in several questions, but we're only going to address this one. Do we wear pants underneath the table? So, I mean, I guess
we just show
them?
them?
We'll just let you guys know.
Oh, we're gonna let them in? Okay.
And now you know. All right, so we have the SDG Invitational this weekend in Atlanta. We've already talked about it a little bit. $50,000. You guys will be competing for your own share of the prize pool.
We can just Photoshop this right now because the trophy's coming home with me, buddy.
Well, such a claim, such a claim.
Brad, you have to actually top 8 and open before you can claim that you're going to win.
Leaps and bounds.
Well, fortunately for Brad, there are standard and legacy opens running alongside the invitation.
I mean, I didn't say which trophy it was going to be, so.
It's true, he did not. In addition to those
there are
events,
draft opens still, right? No.
No, we have drafts, draft challenges. Those are among the side events, including the Ascension Immortal Tournament. You can get your likeness on an upcoming Ascension promo card if you win. Pretty sweet.
I have to learn how to play Ascension because, let's be honest, I'll probably be playing in that.
I'm pretty excited about seeing that tournament go off. It's the first one we've tried, so looking forward to it. We also have Steve Argyle and several Alterists there at the event, so if you want to get cards signed, altered, that'll be very cool. And yeah, that about wraps up. If you want more information, our pre-registration page is already live on the website, so check it out there. This has been another episode of Above the Curve. It's been awesome. I'm Glenn Jones for Brad and Todd. Thanks for watching.
All right. Gonna draw brick down.
And Bluebird. What was that, Taproot back in the day?
Taproot?
I know where the breakdown.
Oh, yeah. I wasn't even doing that, but yeah. All right. Gonna take out, baby.